Alright, today's video is about light and color. So, when we refer to color, we're really referring to visible light.
Yeah.
Now, the electromagnetic spectrum has all these different types of
Yep,
light.
you can see it all up there.
In reality, humans can only see a very, very, very small sliver of it.
Un poquito.
And we like to call that the visible light.
Yep.
And we're going to analyze that little sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can see.
We'll talk about it right now.
Yep.
All right, so visible light, the light that comes down that we see that we call visible light, it can be separated into 6 distinct colors, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But I want to remind you guys, when we're talking about this spectrum, we're talking about something like A to Z is a spectrum. It's a whole band of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that band is broken down by different wavelengths or frequencies, and those different frequencies determine the different colors. On one end, you have red, which has the lowest frequency, long waves, and very low energy. It's got a long wavelength and low frequency. All the way on the other end of the spectrum is violet, a purpley color, and it has the highest frequency, lots of waves, because the waves are very short.
Right.
So red would have the long ones, violet's going to have the very short ones on there.
Yeah, they get packed into the small spot. They get packed into space, whereas red is a little more spread out.
Yes.
Yeah. So here
the
are the colors of the light spectrum. Well, the lowest frequency, excuse me, as we said, is red.
Yep.
The second lowest frequency is orange. Third lowest frequency, yellow. Then you got green. Then you got blue. And then you have violet.
Mm-hmm. I bet all you art majors out there are shaking your heads up and down because this makes perfect sense right now.
So sometimes people say there's this color indigo that's between blue and violet. We're just
malarkey.
Yeah, we're going to kind of disregard that. There's some debate whether that's appropriate in a
I
science.
agree, Mr. Black. That is crazy talk.
Yeah. But anyway, so actually rather than it being, if you don't mind me going back, rather than it being the old mnemonic of Roy G. Biv, it's really Roy G. Boof.
Boof.
Yeah,
no I.
I'm sorry, Mr. Black, I know you hate indigo, but
he does.
You got
a little
settle yourself down.
Settle down.
Anyway, in order to actually see an object, you need to actually have light reflect off of that object.
Off of the object. So what we're seeing is a reflected light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is that, Mr. Black? Yeah, reflection is kind of like, light bounces off.
It's bouncing.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a good way to put it. I'm glad we got him here.
Yep. So there are 2 characteristics of light, or characteristics of the surrounding light that determine what you see. First is how much light is available.
Okay.
Like, for example, if there's no light in the room, can you see stuff?
No, because if there's no light, there's nothing to bounce. We won't see anything. That's why a pitch black room is pitch black.
Yeah,
we
can't
don't
see
anything.
Right.
Okay.
And then also, the colors that are actually reflected by an object will determine what you see as well.
Oh, and that makes sense because we see in color.
Right.
Excellent. Let's go on.
What's that, Mr. Black? Oh, so the things that determine the color of something are pigments, which are things that are intentionally added to, or maybe not even intentionally added to an object, or just something can naturally be that color based on its chemical properties.
Okay, so pigments are like a chemical that causes color.
Like I say pigments because like when we have colored clothing, they add pigments or dyes.
Yeah, to make this look green or that look black.
Right.
Cool.
Good question, Mr. Black.
Briefly, let's talk about the human eye, since that's the major organ that we have in our skull that actually allows us to see things. We're going to talk at just a real quick overview, but there's 3 main parts I want you guys to kind of think about. The pupil is the hole in the eye. Now, it's covered with a cornea. Don't try to like keep your extra change in your eye and pull it out. That'd be gross, but kind of cool. Don't. There's a covering on there, but the pupil is the hole in there, and it can control how much light enters your eye. So if it's too bright out there, your pupil will get real tiny. And then if you're outside at night and it's dark and that, then your eye will open up to let more light in to try to help you to see stuff around. The lens is just what it sounds like, kind of like the lenses in your glasses. You'll have a lens in each eye, or a camera lens, or any of those things. You'll have a lens in each eye, and what that does is it takes the light that comes into your eye and it focuses that to make signals on the back of your eye that your brain can then interpret and tell you what the picture is. So that's basically how it works. You got the pupil, the lens, and the brain to interpret the whole thing. Let's talk about reflection.
Yeah, so this is what actually happens when you look at an object and you see some sort of color. So the first thing you got to understand is when all the different colors of light are combined together, we call that white light. That's what comes from the sun. That's what comes from the lights above us.
Okay.
White light is generally coming out. And that is actually a combination of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet light.
Okay, so that's all 6 of those together make white light.
Right.
Okay.
So it's a mixture of all colors. Now, Mr. Black is going to cover what black light is,
Excellent.
since that's his name. Yeah, you're right. So black doesn't actually reflect anything.
That was
Black
really good.
is really just the absorption
Of all of the colors, which means nothing bounces back.
Yeah.
And when nothing bounces back to your eye, nothing is reflected, we see that as black. It registers in our brain as the color we know as black.
So in reality, black, if you've ever heard the expression that black isn't technically a color, that's because black is
The absence,
the absence
of color.
It means that no light is being reflected out by an object. Okay? But okay, so we explained black and we explained white. How does your green
Yeah, how
sweater
does
work,
this
something
work
like that?
then?
So here's a picture of a red surface.
Okay.
Say it's like a red shirt.
Okay.
None of us is wearing red, but
Nope.
pretend someone has a red shirt on. So what happens is white light strikes the object.
Okay.
So you have a combination of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet.
Okay.
Now, let's say you have a red shirt. It has a bunch of pigments in it. Now they absorb all the other colors except for red and reflect the red light out.
So the pigments let it reflect red back in. It hits our eye. We interpret that as the red color.
Right.
All the other parts of that white light that hit, all the other part of that spectrum that hit that object
They're
are absorbed.
Right.
The red is reflected, so the red's what we see. If the shirt's green, the green is reflected, so green's what we see.
Right.
Excellent. I like
Yeah.
that. That makes sense.
So, and even getting a little more technical,
For you art majors.
technically your green shirt, it is reflecting back maybe a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow.
Yeah,
You know, a little
colors
bit
are
of-
often mixes
yeah.
of other parts of the spectrum.
Right, but what your shirt is definitely absorbing is what's on the opposite side of the color wheel from your shirt. So what's on the opposite side of the color wheel from green?
You're right, Mr. Black. The opposite side of the color wheel from green is primary red. It's one of the
Right.
primary colors there. You'll see it in a circle.
So your shirt is absorbing red light
Yeah.
a lot, and it's reflecting back mostly green, maybe
Mostly
a
green.
combination of other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, now we're going to talk about how light actually passes or doesn't pass through an object.
Okay.
You take this, Mr. Harkin?
Yeah, let's start off first with this thing. I'm sure some of you guys have seen a famous album cover. We have it up there in the, I hope it's right-hand corner when you guys are looking at this. Do you know what that album cover is?
It is Pink Floyd's
Dark Side of the Moon. Yes, and what they're showing on the cover of that is how a prism acts. If you see, there's white light coming into that, and as that prism, that glass, sometimes it's crystal, and we have them in the room, we'll play with these things too. As that comes in, it splits up all of the light, the white light that's coming in, into its 6 respective colors, and then it lets those come out
Yep.
on the other side. And that same thing happens, do you know, Mr. Black, where that happens in nature? Yes, total double rainbow is correct. When there's water droplets hanging in the air, the shape of the water droplet, whenever white light comes through there, will also break all of the white light that's coming up into its respective 6 colors. And then they come out, and when that happens billions of times by tiny droplets of water hanging in the air, we get a rainbow.
So wait, single rainbows too, right? 'Cause he said
Single
double
rainbows
rainbow.
as well. Yeah, he's
Okay.
hooked on that double rainbow thing. He's, I found
Yeah.
it on YouTube. He thinks it's new. Like,
Yeah, it's
we'll
like
just
4 years old. But
Exactly.
anyway,
He's
so,
like so 2009.
anyway.
Anyway.
So now sometimes light will hit an object
Mm-hmm.
and it won't pass through at all. And what we would call an object like that is opaque.
Ah.
So a brick wall is opaque because no light really travels through it.
Yes.
I myself am
Am
pretty
opaque.
opaque because light isn't really passing through me. Visible light.
Fortunately for all of us, our clothing is opaque because
Right.
that would be embarrassing
Or else you would
situations
see
if
through
it
the
wasn't.
clothes.
That would be creepy.
Now, the opposite of opaque
Yeah.
is
If-
when all light
So
passes
all
through.
light goes through. So opaque, no light goes through.
Mm-hmm.
Transparent is like glass or crystal or something like that, where all light goes through. So you got
Mm-hmm.
transparent on one side, everything goes through. Opaque, nothing goes through. Is there anything that's like
Yeah.
a little bit goes through or something
Yeah,
like that?
What's that, Mr. Black? Oh, what's your like foggy window? Well, I mean, like I said, it's right
That's a good
between
question. I
opaque
don't
and
know.
transparent. A word for that is translucent.
Oh,
And translucent lets some
I think
light
I've
go
heard that.
through, and some light doesn't. That's why it looks kind of hazy or foggy, like that wax paper that's on that cheese. on
Oh,
that
so
picture.
you could see like a silhouette, or you could see a little bit of it through there, but not really clear. Like you wouldn't
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
read a newspaper, but you could tell like if there's like a crazy monster hiding behind the glass, you could see the outline,
Right. Or even just like, when there's, like I said, foggy
like a foggy
mirror already,
window
yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that it?
Yep,
Are we good?
that's it.
All right, everybody.
Yep. See you
I'm
later.
out.